sparkling water. I like it a little bit bubbly. Hey everybody, how's it going? It's episode 1 of the Make Art, Eat Spiders podcast. This is the podcast where we chat about building your own definition of art, life, and how to live creatively as possible in whatever way that means for you. Your host, Eat More Spiders. If you didn't already know, if this is your first time here, which it is because this is episode 1. So congratulations, you made it. What are we talking about today? What are we talking about? You don't know? You came not prepared for the podcast. I know because I wrote the script. Today we're going to talk about why talk about creativity. Why do we do it? What's the point? And I think that's a great way to start off a podcast aiming to talk about creativity. I'm smart, huh? Y'all got that. So why do we do it? Why is it so important to be transparent about being creative? Take a second to try and answer that question for yourself. Just take 2 seconds, think about it. And then I'll talk, because this is my podcast. All right, you had a couple minutes. Not really. You could pause the video or the podcast and get a couple minutes, but I'm on a schedule. Why do we talk about creativity? The number one reason, we're going to talk about 3 different reasons. The number one reason is because transparency builds trust. Stew on that for a little while. I took like 5 minutes to write that one heading. Transparency builds trust. The more that we can be transparent with each other about creativity, our creative practice, how artists and creatives make money in 2019, coming on 2020, and how we build communities, the more we can be transparent about things like that, the better the creative community as a whole is, The better people on the come up can get some insight and then learn how to do their own thing. It's a lot of passing on the flame or passing on the torch, if you want to call it that. But at the same time, it's a great way to see if what you're doing makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So transparency builds trust, and trust is really important because if you want to build a community around your art, if you want to get people excited about what you do, if you want people to watch your videos, like your posts on Instagram, or again, just have you in mind when they think of an artist that they really like, then you really need to focus on community. What is a community without trust? It's like, I don't know. I don't even know. Not a community. I was trying to think of a word, but I don't think it's a community at all. You need to be pretty trustworthy. And trustworthy, a lot of that comes with showing up. If you want art to be a job, or if you want to get paid for your art or become well-known or just comfortable with yourself as an artist, then you need to show up. You need to do it first and foremost. And we're going to be talking a lot about that, like the importance of just doing something. Whatever it is, maybe you dance, maybe you make music, maybe you illustrate, maybe you're a ceramic artist, or you make mosaics. I love mosaics, but I would never make one because that seems hard. I got a lot of respect for that. But no matter what you do, a large portion of this and our creative talks are going to be focused on just do it. And that's it sounds easy, but in a lot of cases, that's the hardest step. So we're going to be chatting about that. So what's another reason why we're going to be talking about creativity? I've got my script up. That's why I'm looking past the camera. Don't worry about it. Topic number 2 about why we talk about creativity. It makes the journey easier. In this day and age, surprisingly, it can feel really hard to find a mentor for you in your work. Again, whether you're a fine artist or a photographer, how often do you really get to sit down with someone who has gotten to a place where you want to be with their work, with your work? You know what I mean? And a lot of cases that is not viable for a lot of people. Maybe you live somewhere where art isn't big, or maybe you come from a family where art is not seen as a career or something like that, and it's just not encouraged. So it can be really hard to find people who support you in your work in the way that you need to be supported to get to the next step. So in making the journey easier, we talk about creativity to become mentors for the people on the come up and the people who are like on their way in, you know? And I think that's also a really big point or really big thing to think about for young people of color who are trying to get into creative fields. Because, and this has been changing in the past couple of years, but I remember when I was growing up in like middle high school, being an artist was like never an option, you know, especially, and for a lot of people that I knew in situations around me, again, being an artist or being a creative wasn't really an option. And there was that really cliche stereotype that if you're Black and you want to be close to creative fields, then you need to be like a rapper. You need to make music. And I'm not shitting on rappers at all. I love music. I played music for like 8 years. But if you went outside of that grain, there really wasn't that many resources for you. Like, take a second to think about how many Black mainstream visual artists you know. Take a second to think about it. Growing up and being a younger person, you can maybe think of one or two. But again, that was really difficult to think of one or two that hit the mainstream and really made a living off of their work. And that can be super discouraging just being a young person. Because maybe if you're in high school or something listening to this right now, you are in high school and you know that you really want to create for your life. Like, you know that in your heart, you want to create things for the rest of your life, and that maybe other positions, other jobs, other careers aren't for you. And that's great, but it's hard to validate that feeling when you don't have anything to look up to. You know what I mean? People who wanted to get into rap had a lot of people to look up to for years, but fine artists, dancers, things like that, we really didn't. So that's another really big point to talking about creativity, and that's a lot of why it's important. Another reason is that people seem really closed off about talking about creativity. I don't know why that is. I think a lot of it stems from people see creativity as a competition when it's not. Especially online, a lot of people get to thinking like, oh, I need to be better than X, Y, and Z, and I need to be the number one person on Instagram or Twitter making mosaics or something. And you really don't. Like, there are 7 billion people on the planet. You don't have to compete with anyone to make what you want happen. And that's just the facts. Unless you are, unless you're like Apple and Samsung, and you know, and there are only a couple companies that put out phones. So being competitive is really important. When you're a creative, what you're really doing is you need to try and build a community, right? Why are we in competition with each other to build a community as if all of us aren't in dozens of communities ourselves, you know? So you can take a minute and think about all of the dozens of communities you yourself belong to. Maybe it's a fandom. Maybe you're in a Reddit group for scary stories, or think about your top 10 artists in your head, or the top 10 people you really like to see work from every week or something like that. So in the age of the internet and the way things are built now, you're never restricted to one community. Like, I will never see that happen. Like, a person only likes one thing or only interacts with one person and literally nothing else. It doesn't happen. So again, why are we getting so dead set and so focused on being competitive with each other and then not sharing like the tips of the trade and X, Y, and Z? For me personally, whenever someone asks me a question about how I make things or how I promote my work, I give you a straight answer. Because if you can do it too, great. Even if you do it better than me, it will most likely never affect how me and my community operate. It will never affect the relationships that I've built with the people throughout the past 2 years. It just won't, no matter what you do. Even if you go after the same people and try to build community and build relationships with them, it's like if you have a friend and you tell someone else, oh, you should be friends with them too. It doesn't automatically mean that you've lost a friend. That person just gained another friend. That's a good analogy. I like that. I just made that up on the spot. Gonna drink some water. If you're watching the video version of this, you just saw me drink coconut pineapple sparkling water. If you're listening to this, imagine that you saw me do that. What is another way that it makes the journey easier? Another big way for me, and that really helped me personally, was that you get a really unique chance to learn from other people's mistakes. And I don't mean in terms of what you make, because I think that journey is super personal and it's super individual. But what I do think you pick up on in terms of mistakes is how to market yourself. So because of YouTube, Instagram, Google, we get to take a step back and then see what is the best way to market your work, what is the best way to get paid for your work, build a community, and what doesn't work. So you could have mountains of data to support what does and doesn't work. You just have to make use of it. And the best way that we can get that data from each other is, again, by being transparent with our creativity, which is what we're going to do here. Look at us being transparent already. High five. So we've talked about how transparency builds trust and how talking about creativity makes the journey easier. The third thing I want to talk about why we talk about creativity and the kind of distinction between talking about creativity and talking about technique for making artwork, is that creativity is largely conceptual. There's no one set way to be creative. And again, I want to touch on, there is a difference between being creative and the techniques you use to create whatever it is you want to create. Anyone can pick up a pencil and do shading. Anyone can shade, right? But that's the technique. The creativity behind it is, how did you decide what to shade? What is your inspiration? Why did you do it? How did you do it? A little bit. And how comfortable do you feel with yourself in doing that? And that's kind of where the creativity is conceptual comes in. And talking about creativity helps build that conceptual model inside of other creative people. So to be creative, a couple things you really need are, you need to be really disciplined if you want to create consistently and get over art blocks. And that's really hard. And it's really hard to do that without other people kind of telling you, it's not the only way, but people telling you and guiding you through how they did it can really support you in your work to get creative, kind of. And you also really need to define what creativity means for yourself. So showing up and listening to things like podcasts or reading articles or watching other people work is important, because it kind of builds this sense of awe. How do I want to be creative? And then you start to build an idea of, what does an ideal creative you look like? And that'll change. But by, again, looking at other people's work and other people's process, you can say, I like how they do that. I want to be able to draw 3 times a day, every day for a year or something. So that's building the creative model. And then after that, you need to define how it works for yourself. And I don't think we're going to get to that unless we can have that honest conversation with each other about, how do we do that? What was so hard about it? What was easy? What were the best ways to get to that point? Etc. And on creativity being conceptual, While building a community is a process that relies largely on mass communication, being creative is about the individual. So when you're building a community for your work and you're building a reputation and you're getting respect for what you do every day or whatever, or what your calling is, whatever you want to call it. In the age of the internet, to do that, you need to be really comfortable with mass communication. And I've actually got an episode queued up about that. I think in 2 episodes or something. I'm filming a lot this week. But you need to be comfortable with mass communication. But at the same time, your creativity needs to come from yourself, and you need to build that conceptual model for yourself. Stew on that for a second. Just think about it. Think about it. What does creativity mean for yourself? So to recap, in today's talk about why do we talk about creativity, we covered transparency builds trust. It makes the journey easier for ourselves and the people on the come up. And maybe we're on the come up and we're looking at other people and seeing the best ways to become creative or just be more comfortable with ourselves. And 3, creativity is super conceptual. And by talking about creativity and building in that creative framework in ourselves by watching other people work, we're building that conceptual model of creativity in our own heads that helps us move forward and be better. So let's do on that. Thank you for listening to the first episode. This was cool. Filming videos and podcasts has been a long time coming thing for me because I'm kind of scared to be in front of the camera or talking into a microphone because it's so vastly different from sitting in my room and drawing or going out and doing life studies or illustrating or taking on clients. And I guess that kind of touches on a lot of what we talked about here today about being transparent with our own work. So this took a lot. For me, it took a lot to get here. But podcasts are fun. If you want to check out any more video content or illustrations or artwork or me running my mouth, check me out on Instagram at Eat More Spiders. I post near daily illustrations, sketchbooks, things like that. Or you can check me out on Patreon if you want to support the video in the podcast. You can get access to things like sketchbook scans, process videos, get some coaching from me. Do whatever you want. I hope you're having a good insert whatever day it is for you here. And do you. Be creative, fool.